Welcome to the Home Business Podcast with Richard Captain Henderson, publisher of Home Business Magazine, and Sherilyn Colleen, managing editor. This how-to show helps you successfully operate your home-based business.
Greetings and welcome to the Home Business Podcast. I'm Richard Captain Henderson, your skipper at Home Business TV. My better half, Sherilyn, has been snowed out. Let's gear for sea and get underway. You are building your home-based startup and you're finding success. You need help. So you say to yourself, build it and they will come. Well, not always. Your startup is making breakthroughs and is poised for growth. You need talent. You may not be ready to put somebody on the payroll, but you have many other options such as freelancers, independent contractors, or maybe even a junior partner. Whatever these support options, you'll need to compete for A-plus talent in a job market that is growing tougher every day. One CEO entrepreneur, Jamie Fitch, has been able to crack the code on attracting A-plus talent with his highly successful healthcare startup, Online Med Ed, and shares his advice. So greetings, Jamie Fitch. Welcome to the Home Business Podcast. Say hello to our audience.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm really excited.
So you're connecting in from Austin, Texas today.
Beautiful, sunny Austin,
Beautiful,
Texas.
Sunny, and that's kind of like the entrepreneurial hub, like sort of a mini Silicon Valley for Texas out in Austin. It's got a really good, vibrant startup atmosphere to it.
It does, and it's constantly evolving. You know, traditionally it was very small startups, and then when you had some success, you would leave this city. But now more and more people are staying here at home.
Yeah, I talk a lot with people from Austin. It seems like there's never anybody dissatisfied with it. They get there and they love it and they like the culture of it.
There's nothing not to like other than the costs, which are constantly going up, but that's happening in all the great cities around the country.
Wherever it's good to live, the costs of housing always go up. So that's always a good sign. Well, let's kind of like dive right in here. Despite what you might hear, you know, money is a motivator. How do you promote upfront higher and or an honest pay or compensation with talent you're looking at?
Yeah, this is really important. So when you're typically, if you're looking to apply for jobs, they do not necessarily list what they're paying. And that is set up for the company so the company can negotiate the best terms for them. But it's very disingenuous to the actual person, right? The person wants to feel that they are being upfront and honest with from the beginning. And the fact is they need to know if it's even worth their time coming to you. And so really what I recommend people doing is deciding what the job is going to be. So instead of creating a job description, focus on a scorecard saying this is what success for this position would look like, and then assign a value to that. So say, you know, instead of saying 90 to 110,000 or 80 to 120,000, you say, no, for these goals, if I can meet that, that's worth $110,000 to me. And then you post that out to the world. You're very honest. You're forthright with it. The people that are applying for the position know exactly what you're willing to pay. And when you go to negotiate, you can say, hey, I've done this exercise. This is what it's worth to me. Is it worth it to you? It just puts your best foot forward from the get-go, which is really important when you have new employees that are coming on and may not know you or the organization very well.
Well, I like to use this term clock watchers, you know, bringing employees that are clock watchers versus go-getters. I imagine when you set up, when you're up front with some enticing goals like that with greater competition, you get the go-getters and the clock watchers kind of, well, maybe that one's not for me. So it looks like it would kind of like breed a more entrepreneurial talent, setting compensation up with goals like that.
Exactly. And it makes the process start to finish a lot less painful because you might go through hours of interviews and then find out, oh, you're so far off on the price, it's not going to work. And so by being forthright up front, you can eliminate some of that risk. And actually, there's an article that just came.
Waste a lot of time with somebody, the compensation just completely off, and you should never even have gone down that road in the first place.
That's right. And, you know, there's a lot of other good reasons. So there's actually an article on CNN today that said companies that publish their salaries expectations do better getting more diverse candidates. And so women in particular tend to win when they know up front what everybody's making, what the opportunity is at the company.
Well, I mean, one possible challenge I see here is it tough to define like measurables or define success and then tie a compensation to it. Has that that would, looking out on the outside, that would seem to be maybe one of the tougher challenges. But has that been easy to do, to define these goals that you want and then tie compensation to it?
I always say, if you can't do that, you're not ready to hire for the position. So if you don't know what success looks like, you're going to get yourself in trouble potentially, right? Because how can you judge someone if you don't know what you're judging them on? And so I make all of my employees that want to hire tell me what success looks like before we then make that position available to the outside world.
Well, I like that. So you're saying if you can't do that, you better step back and reevaluate the job and define it better.
That's right. It's not meant to be easy. It takes a little bit of work to do it right, but especially as a small company, you need to make sure that the people that you bring on are the right people so that you don't end up running into problems down the line, because there's a lot of research done that says at the absolute minimum, a bad hire is going to cost at least 50% of their salary in damages. And, some people say it's as high as 15x.
And if you're like a home-based business, you bring somebody in like as a junior partner, a contractor, that could even wreak more havoc, because the impact of one employee on a smaller business can be devastating.
That's right. And, the whole point of hiring is really to get away from being gut driven. It's good to follow our gut, but really we have to know what we're looking for. We have to evaluate, and we have to be honest going into that to make sure that everybody's on the same page.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of a saying I used to hear: if it doesn't write, it doesn't work. So you can think about things like, hey, this is good, but if you can't put it down in writing with a piece of paper and a pencil, you need to reevaluate it and make sure you can define it.
Yep.
Well, your business culture, must also be attractive to A+ talent, even if home-based. How do you foster a strong work environment and culture when you might have the challenge of a smaller business, home-based business?
Yeah, if you're home-based, it's a little bit different. So larger office is about taking care of your employees, but it's, again, it gets to that component of it. Mm-hmm. And so the environment and the culture becomes that of ownership. So you give these employees the opportunity to own something and to be accountable for it. And then communication. Communication is the absolute key to setting a good culture. You need to be using tools that allow for constant communication. Things like Slack are very common in the business world. You can use Skype, if you just have one or two people. Doing a regular cadence to make sure that employee feels valued is the most important thing. Employees that don't feel valued are not going to stay around unless they're just the people that you talked about that are just watching the time and trying to cash a check, which is not what you want especially early on when you're growing a business.
Well, I like what you said there, which is a key point, is ownership. Building that sense of ownership. And that might even be easier to do with a smaller business, a home-based business, to provide that sense of ownership that might get kind of lost in a larger operation.
Yeah, having an impact. Everybody wants to have an impact and see that result. And so as an employee, or as an employer, constant positive feedback, being supportive and saying, hey, this is how this product, this thing that you're working on is impacting everything else that's going on. Just continually bringing that message home is extremely valuable. And you will see the rewards quickly in the work that you get from your employees and how they view the position. Yeah,
it ties into one thing I heard with particularly younger workers, millennials, is they don't talk about what their job title is the way older generations did. They talk about what they're doing, or what they're working on, vice what their title is. And I think that's a big cultural change that ties into some of the points you're saying here.
Definitely. And, titles are important in certain moments, but they're not what you should be focused on, right? You should be focused on the purpose and the work that you're doing. And so I'm on the older edge of millennials, but I totally feel that, and that's how I live my life.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about that meaningfulness. Your product or service needs to be enticing. How can you make it more meaningful to potential support personnel?
That's a good question. So this is really around your narrative, right? And so as you grow your company, you constantly have to work on the story that you're telling. And so the product that you're working on today and the problems you're trying to solve will not be the problems a year to 5 years down the line, right? So you constantly need to be working on pitching that bigger vision. yeah, you're here right now. You have this MVP product that doesn't serve, it only serves a small market, like a segment of the market that you eventually want to get to. And you need to keep that focus. That's important. But you also need to say consistently, this is where we're trying to go to, and this is what we're trying to be. And that helps you add meaning. It helps people buy in, especially if you can get that consistent and you make sure every time that you talk about it, it's right there. And so everybody knows they're shooting for the same goals. That's really important and begins talking to a more meaningful product than even what's in front of them today.
Yeah, I like what you're saying here. So if I can take this a step further, what you're looking at with the product or service and making it meaningful is to be more strategic and talk about where you're going, where the direction is that this product or service is going to take you to, not necessarily where you're at in the moment. And that's what will, build more meaningfulness with potential, with your support personnel.
That's right. You got to sell the why. It's, you got to sell that outwardly to the world. You also have to sell it inward to your own employees.
Yeah, I like that also. They talk about in marketing, the best thing you can do is, tell a story in marketing, but that also applies with the people that are supporting your business. They'll be attracted by a good story also.
Yep. And, hiring is you can look at it the same filter that you look at marketing. It is a marketing exercise after all, putting yourself out there.
Mm-hmm. Well, you're always looking for ways to leverage in your search for talent. What do you mean by anchor points, domino effect in looking to gain A+ talent?
Yeah, it's so important. So people want to work with really good people. That's a universal truth. People want to be surrounded by people that inspire them. And so it is the best interest of every organization to recruit as many of those as they can, of course. But if you can find one, do whatever it takes to bring in a rock star. People that will inspire not just from what they do, but how they act and how they interact with everyone around them. Their presence then entices other top guns to join the ranks, right? Because success, after all, begets more success. People want to be around that. It becomes infectious. If you have mediocrity, it self-perpetuates. There's a rule of hiring that says one great employee is worth 3 good employees. And I firmly believe that. And it's very important to find that great employee early on because that employee will then set the tone for the rest of the organization.
It kind of gets back to the tying into marketing with one of the best ways you can market is through referrals or through having testimonials. And that also then applies to employee support also, where you want to have some good, well-known persons in the industry that help spread the word. And, on the flip side of that, it could be damaging if, your relationships aren't good with one of those rock stars, because then that can send shockwaves out and spread that's a company you want to stay away from.
That's right. And, it's so competitive right now in this space. You're going to lose employees. You just are. If you're hiring, not everybody's going to stay with you the entire way. But you need to find those people that you say, to be the most successful, I have to keep them all the way. You need to really invest in them and make sure that, again, they are the anchor points that never leave.
Well, let's talk a little bit more on that point. You've got that A+ talent, and you need to keep them locked in. Any advice on how to keep A+ talent locked into your business?
The simplest thing is invest your time in people and learn what that really means. And it's something that you have to just experience and really focus on. You have to read about. But coaching is a top 3 skill for a leader. It can really pay off in spades if you nail it. Finding diamonds in the rough is great, but opportunity alone isn't going to get them shining. And you have to provide opportunity. And so it's about realizing that the people that you have, once you have them, it's great that you got them, but you have to pretend that they might leave every day. So you want to keep them motivated. And it's a tough thing to think, because again, once they come through, you're like, that problem is gone. I'm moving on to the next one. But these problems just continue to add on top of each other. And it changes the way the business, you have to approach it as a small business owner.
I'm saying, like, imagine with a smaller business, a way to keep people engaged is that maybe you need to keep putting out challenges or new success points that A+ talent can work towards, ways to increase their compensation if they, attain a new goal. I guess you got to keep throwing new challenges. Is that a way to, keep A+ talent engaged?
That's definitely a way. There's a lot of things, again, it gets back to what we talked about. People want to feel that they matter, like they matter, right? They want to have ownership. And so continuing to present ownership opportunities and highlighting those and coaching around those, saying, we're going to give you this and here's why, and here's the next step that we want you to take. Moving the anchor or moving the target, not necessarily around, but higher and higher as they continue to show success is really important.
I guess then also clearly communicate how the work they're doing is moving the startup towards its goals. Because sometimes, the owner of the business can kind of get locked in and really know what's going on, but that information doesn't get shared to the rest of the organization. I imagine good communication on where you're going and how goals are being achieved. Is that helpful also with keeping A-plus talent engaged?
That's important for any business, let alone the A-plus talent. Yes, clear communication and as much transparency as you can give goes a long way in keeping everybody motivated.
Well, Jamie Fitch, it's been a great discussion on finding A-plus talent to support your business and keeping them. Do you have any final points you would like to share?
We covered a lot. The last thing I'd like to tell people that are small business owners, especially, you need to network for every hat that you not only wear, but you also employ. So getting back to understanding how to define success, it doesn't have to be you for all those positions. If you have a mentor that can help, that's great. And so get yourself out there and try to find as many people that can help your business and maintain those great relationships, because you never know when you're going to need to pick up the phone and make a call.
Get that A-plus talent locked in. Well, Jamie Fitch, thank you for being such a great guest on the Home Business Podcast.
Absolutely. Thank you.
To learn more about Jamie Fitch and Online MedEd, visit www.onlinemeded.org or our podcast website for more information on guests. Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Home Business Podcast. Share your feedback with us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and at our website, homebusinessmag.com. Visit our website for more information on guests and our advertising and newsletter. Please visit our sponsors. For more information, visit homebusinessmag.com or the Home Business Expo at homebusinessexpo.com. I'm Richard Captain Henderson saying anchors away. We'll talk with you soon. Until then, make it a great home-based biz day.